Hello everybody, my name is King Rico and I want to talk to you about how I beat MoxieBoosted at the 2024 Peoria Regional. I've recently gotten into competitive Pokemon and the Peoria Regional was my second ever regional. I went 5 and 4 and I did okay. Unfortunately, I did not get to move on to day 2, but I got to play lots of exciting games and meet lots of new people, including MoxieBoosted, which was very exciting to me because I've based my team around some of the content that he's made. So for the rest of the video, I would like to take a look at the teams that me and Moxie brought to Peoria, and I would like to take a look at the 2 matches that we played. I like to record every single game that I play in the tournament in Notebook for future analysis, so fortunately for me, we'll be able to see exactly what happened in the 2 matches. I also recreated the game in Showdown, so it'll be easier to follow along. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what Moxie brought to Peoria. Alright, so let's take a look at Moxie's team. So here we have Iron Hands with the Salt Vest, Terra type Fire. It's got a pretty standard moveset: Fake Out, Wild Charge, Heavy Slam, Drain Punch. Terra type for Fire makes a lot of sense, stop the burns from going off, and also Ogre Fire is expected to be pretty popular here, so this makes perfect sense. Most likely for EVs, it would have a lot of bulk and attack, dedicated, like I don't know, like 180 attack, 180 HP, and then the rest would be distributed in, defense, special defense. Next we have Champao with Focus Sash. The Focus Sash is telling me right away that most likely it's 252 into EVs into attack and speed. There's no reason to invest anything in bulk at all. Tier type Ghost makes a lot of sense, stops fighting moves from going through and, stops Fake Out. Then he's got Protect, Icicle Crash, Sucker Punch, which is pretty normal, and then Lash Out. Lash Out, a little odd, but it makes a lot of sense in this meta since there's a lot of Intimidate users like Lando, Arcanine, Hisui, and I mean kind of Gyarados, but it's mostly the first 2. Then we have Ursaluna Blood with Leftover set, which is a Calm Mind set, with Tear type Ghost, again same reason, stop fighting moves from going to be hit, and then Fake Outs, and then it's got Blood Moon, Earth Power, Calm Mind, Protect. Nothing crazy. Again, it's most likely got lots of special attack invested, and then definitely don't need speed for this type of team. And then we have Lando T with a Choice Scarf, Terra type Flying. I mean, Rock Slide, Stomping Tantrum, U-Turn, Terra Blast. This is pretty standard stuff. I don't think he did anything too crazy here. But then we have his Cresselia, which is really interesting to me because it's with the safety goggles. And it has Ice Beam, which is not something I've necessarily seen run a lot. Lunar Blessing, Trick Room, and Helping Hand, that's pretty standard, but Safety Goggles is really interesting. I guess he really doesn't like Spore. And then lastly, we have Sinistcha with the Citrus Berry, Terra type Water. I mean, that makes sense too. Again, this feels to me like direct counter to Ogre Fire, right? You Terra Water, live an Ivy Cudgel, and then has Matcha Gacha, Strength Sap, Rage Powder, Trick Room. Again, most likely he did a lot of investing into bulk. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if you could tell, but I don't have any information on Moxie's EVs and IVs, so I'm making assumptions here on what he ran. Alright, so let's take a look at my team. So as we can see, I'm running kind of a half and half here, half a Trick Room team, half of a Hyper Offensive team. For my Trick Room, obviously Cresselia, Ursaluna, Iron Hands, and for my offensive team, Ogerpon, Flutter Mane, Urshifu. So my Flutter Mane, I run with a Booster Energy, Tear type Fairy, pretty standard stuff, right? Shadow Ball, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Protect. Unfortunately, I will not be releasing the exact EVs for my team since I plan to keep using this team in other tournaments. But you'll see the games, you can make your assumptions about what I'm running. Then I have Cresselia with a Mental Herb, also Terra type Fairy, and it's got Ally Switch, Moonblast, Lunar Blessing, and Trick Room. Again, pretty standard stuff. I also gotta say, I love Ally Switch as a move. It just messes with people so much. It's great. Then I have my Ursaluna Blood. I'm running the Throat Spray set here with Terra type Ghost, and it's got Blood Moon, Earth Power, Hyper Voice, and Protect. Then I have my Urshifu, Earth type Water with Aqua Jet, Close Combat, Protect, and Surging Strikes. My Iron Hands with an Assault Vest. Probably, honestly, identical to Moxie's, except for its Terra-type Grass instead of Fire. Honestly, I probably should have switched over to Terra-type Fire for this meta, but I don't know. This is what I ran in Reg D and I liked it, so I just kept it. And again, same moves: Fake Out, Drain Punch, Wild Charge, Heavy Slap. And then finally, Ogre Pawn, Fire with Ivy Cudgel, Horn Leech, Spiky Shield, and Brick Break. I'm running Brick Break because I've been noticing a lot of people running screens, specifically with Aurora Veil on Ninetales. So really catches them by surprise. It actually won me a game because the person in the tournament, whoever I was playing against, didn't realize I ran Brick Break, and then I destroyed their Aurora Veil and just kind of wrecked them. So, great move. I highly recommend it. Okay, so now that we know what teams we're dealing with, I'm gonna play the first game for us. I'm just gonna let it play through and not talk about kind of what's happening, and then once you see the whole game, I'm going to my input and what I was thinking during every turn and what I think Moxie was thinking during every turn. So yeah, enjoy the first game. Alright, so now that we've seen what happened in the game, let's go over everything turn by turn. So right away, before anything even happens, let's talk about the Pokemon that got brought out. For him, he probably expected the Ursaluna with Cresselia right away. That's why he brought Iron Hands and Chiampao. To me, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because he can fake out into the Cresselia, stop the Trick Room from going off, possibly kill it right away, and then he doesn't have to worry about getting outsped by the Ursaluna. So for the first 2 months, that makes a lot of sense. For the two in the back, this is a little bit more strange because the Cresselia honestly almost makes no sense to me, because like he brings it out as a support Pokemon. Like, sure, that makes sense. But if he's bringing it to specifically counter my Trick Room, that's kind of an odd choice, because most likely if I'm already set up and he wants to get rid of it, like my Ursaluna probably got the Throat Spray, like special attack boost, like it's gonna kill that Cresselia. And what's also weird, if he brought it specifically to set up his own Trick Room, like he didn't bring his Ursaluna, so like I don't understand why he brought the Cresselia. And then the Lando, that makes sense, he's probably expecting lots of physical attackers, right? Like he wants to switch it over and over, so he wants to have it in the back, so that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, honestly, if he brought something else instead of Cresselia, I feel like he would have done a lot better here. But then, as for me, I brought an Ursaluna Cresselia, right, to set up my main threat. Like, that's the whole point of this team, or that's kind of the point of this team, right? Like, that's one of the big threats, right? So that's what I want to open with. And in the back, I had, let's see, Urshifu and Ogerpon, to kind of counter anything else that he has. Like, in my head, I went Ogerpon kills half his team, Urshifu kills half his team. Pretty good. Let's do that. Even though they're both physical attackers, and you know, if he brings Lando, that's kind of kind of sucky for me. But anyways, let's look at turn one. So, okay, this is what happens. But let's go over more so what could have happened. So, he kind of has two choices here to either really go attack the Cresselia or go all in on the Ursaluna, because if he gets rid of one of these Pokemon, he'll be in really good shape, because they're two halves of a whole. If I don't have the Cresselia setting up the Trick Room, my Ursaluna isn't going to outspeed, and most likely it's going to die. And if I have the Trick Room on Cresselia and I don't have the Ursaluna to threaten massive damage, It's like, you know, everything else I have is pretty fast. Like, well, it's not gonna work super well. So in my head, that's what I was thinking, that he's gonna either go all in and target one or the other. Now, he has also a couple options on how he can do that, right? Because if he's targeting the Cresselia, he should for sure fake it out, and then he needs to lash out into it. So it's like, all right, that makes sense. If he goes into my Ursaluna, he would Drain Punch it, and then he would Icicle Crash into it. Now, the big problem for him is if I Terra Ghost right away, like, Iron Hands barely can do anything into it, right? Like, I guess a Wild Charge would work, but if he predicts wrong and I don't Terra, the Wild Charge just does nothing. It's just a wasted turn. So, you know, it's kind of a risky play here. So I think from his perspective is he thought that faking it out, like, really simple, buys him a turn on Trick Room. He's still gonna outspeed everything, that he can kind of try to figure out what happens based on what I do, and then lash out to just get my Cresselia really low. From my perspective, it's obviously I want to get Trick Room up as soon as possible. I just need it in there to just outspeed everything, and you know, like, it's really crucial to my strategy to get it up. But as for Ursaluna, I also have a couple options. Like, if I think he's gonna target it, I could have just protected, or I could have Terra Ghosted. But instead, what I picked to do is not to Terra Ghost, since I'm expecting this to get faked out. So I know he's not gonna double into it, but since my Ursaluna is pretty bulky, it should be able to survive one hit from either one of these mons, no matter what it is. Obviously, unless it crits. So that's why I chose to do this, right? Like, I get my Hyper Voice, it's part of my strategy. I get the special attack boost. Now I have a real threat on the board that could really mess with this team if he's not careful. So that's that for turn 1. So for turn 2, I think Moxie wants to be a lot more careful about what he's doing, because if he doesn't take care of that Ursaluna, like, he could just lose really quickly. So I was expecting that he's just gonna get really scared of this and he's just gonna double into it. So naturally I'm gonna protect. I want to keep that safe. And if he's wasting both attacks into this, then I want the Cresselia to get the Trick Room up, so then next turn I have the speed advantage and I could kind of bulldoze through whatever the hell he puts up. He thought that I was probably gonna protect. That's why he only did one Icicle Crash into it, right? Like, because he probably thought if he doubles into it and I protect, like, it's just over. Like, there's just nothing else he could do. And then he probably prayed for a crit, or maybe he thought that this would do enough damage to the Cresselia. I don't really know what the train of thought here was. Maybe he thought it wasn't as bulky, but then like who runs, you know, a non-bulky Cresselia? And then obviously I get Trick Room to go up. And yeah, go on to the next turn. So I have Trick Room. I have this Ursaluna of a beast that's just gonna destroy everything if he doesn't kill it right now. So what do? It's like, obviously I'm going to use it. I'm gonna click a move, and the big question here is, whether do I Blood Moon or do I Hyper Voice? Now, I already Hyper Voiced before, and dealt damage to his Chien-Pao, so I know that the Focus Sash isn't gonna help. So, like, obviously I'm going to want to get rid of it, so I click Hyper Voice. Even though I know that it's probably not going to kill his Iron Hands, it's still gonna deal a significant amount of damage. And if he protects, then I still do damage here, like, right? Like, that's the idea, that he can only protect with his Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is my kind of priority here, because, you know, if he throws an Icicle Crash into that, again, if he doubles down into me, like, it's just bad news for me. But I also thought that, you know, he was expecting me to kill his Chien-Pao. He's probably on the same, you know, wavelength for this moment. He's just like, okay, he's gonna try to attack my Chien-Pao, so he's gonna Sucker Punch into it. So what I do is I ally switch to make sure that that doesn't work. And then he, it looks like he expected that ally switch, because he, or maybe he didn't, I'm actually not sure. I guess either way, it makes sense to do this to just get rid of the Cresselia. But yeah, it's a quite an interesting turn. So we got to this point, Moxie's next big decision is whether he needs to bring out Cresselia or Lando, and I think it's kind of obvious that he should bring out Cresselia because Lando's choice carved, so it's always going to go last, so most likely it's barely going to get to do anything. So let's see what he does, and yep, he brings out Cresselia, but then on the next turn, he decides to swap his Lando for his Iron Hands. And that makes a lot of sense because the Iron Hands is really low. So most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to Hyper Voice because that's going to guarantee to kill it, and it's going to deal damage to whatever second Pokemon is. Like, I don't really care what if he swaps at all, right? Like, I just get damage out. Like, he's not going to kill this. There's no way. He doesn't have priority moves on anything. That's fake out, but that was already used. Yeah, so from that perspective, that makes a lot of sense. And also, since he does have access to fake out, when he brings it back, when he brings it again into the field, because it's something's guaranteed to die here, he's going to be able to potentially stop my Saluna, or delay a turn in the Trick Room or something. Like, it's his best shot right now. So then, what do I do instead? I don't Hyper Voice. I Blood Moon into that spot. Now, thinking about it now, this play doesn't really make sense. Like, it really should have been Hyper Voice, because, right, like, it just damages both things, and if he keeps his Iron Hands, it just kind of kills it. But maybe I did anticipate a switch. I honestly don't even remember. But then he Ice Beams into it. So I was right that his Cresselia would outspeed my Cresselia, meaning, right, mine's actually faster. This is a Trick Room, his is slower, so his gets to go first. So he finally gets rid of the big bad bear. You can take a breather, and I just wanted to heal. So I saw that both Ursaluna was kind of low and Cresselia was a little low, so like, if I got a Moonblast off with either Cresselia or Iron Hands or whatever, like, it wouldn't make a difference. It would do like 10-15% of damage, so I didn't think it was worth it. So I decided the best idea was to heal. So then next, I have a decision to make, to bring in either Ogerpon or Urshifu. And honestly, I didn't think it really mattered at this point. It's kind of like 3 against 2. Trick Room's about to be up. Like, yeah, he's gonna have the speed advantage here. But, like, I just have such strong Pokemon, and they're all healthy. And, like, Urshifu, like, still has a Fuck with Sash up. Like, in my head, I'm thinking, like, there's nothing he could do, really. Like, he doesn't have Protects either. Right now, he has access to Fake Out, now that he brought back the Iron Hands. Well, so he can, still stall out one turn, but, like, what's he gonna do? Like, potentially fake this out, but then, when, like, he, like, Ice Beams into something, but, like, I do have Spiky Shield, so there's no reason for me not to use it. Like, I want to now just wait out the Trick Room and just move on and just gonna get a nice clean win. So what happens is he gets Terrifier because he's probably expecting me to maybe Cudgel into this. He Helping Hands that, and then he Wild Charge into the Crest, killing it. Now, again, there's no reason for me not to Spiky Shield, because once that's over, once Trick Room is over specifically, like, I just have the speed advantage. It's just kind of over. Not really anything you can do. So he probably thought of that I would Spiky Shield, expecting that, like, he would fake me out. So this is a good play. Get rid of the Cresselia. That my Urshifu's in play. So, like, all right, what do I do now? He's gonna Helping Hand again, Draining Punch that. I'm pretty sure there's no way this kills. Even with the Helping Hand, I think normally, like, a max attack, Iron Hands deals like 60% or something, and I had, well, not the super bulky, what's it called, Ogerpon, but I put a little bit of bulk into it just to make sure I could survive something like this. Let's see, and then since he's Terra Fired, obviously I'm gonna Terra Water and just send it into his Iron Hand. So, it's just kind of dead, and it's really over. There's nothing else to say. I can click any move. There's nothing else to do. So that is game 1. Pretty good game. Lots of twists and turns, but overall, I predicted a lot better than he did, and that's why I think I won. So let's move on to game 2. So once again, I'm gonna let the game play out, and then I'm gonna talk about kind of what was my thought process for every move. Alright, so let's take a look at what happened this game. So this time he decides to bring Ursaluna and Champao to start out with Cresselia and Iron Hands at the back. And yeah, bringing Ursaluna makes a lot of sense because, you know, that thing is really scary. And I'm bringing Iron Hands, Fluttermane in the front with my Ursaluna in the back with an Ogerpon in the back. What the idea is that I don't want to start out the same way I did last game. But I'm expecting him to do what I did. So I was fully expecting Cresselia Ursaluna. Then I would do kind of the same thing that he tried to do to me, where I would fake out his Cresselia and use my Fluttermane to possibly kill it. But that's not what happened. These are the pairs that got brought up. So let's see what happened. So right away, we have a couple options. He knows I'm very likely to fake out. So he wants to Terra Ghost to immediately get rid of the fake out. Right. And it makes sense. He also protects. So basically, fake out doesn't affect him at all. Now, since I'm a Fluttermane, I'm kind of scared of both of these things. I'm scared that this might just do a lash out and kill that, or you know, he might have sucker punched if I throw out an offensive move. So I just protected, just kind of, you know, bided the turn. But because of this, he kind of was able to get a Calm Mind out the way. He was able to set up, kind of like how I did right away. So this is already a problem, right? This is not looking good for me. So I need to get rid of this ASAP, or I'm gonna, you know, lose the same way that I won, or the same way that he lost last game. So then the next turn, again, it's really funny to see the parallels of the first game versus the second game, kind of how I played it, how he played it, and it looks like he basically did the same things that I did, where he set up and he protected, except for he parried right away. Well, I didn't. So okay, so I kind of had that in mind. Like, okay, this thing has protect. I'm scared by it. But he's probably gonna think that I'm so intimidated by this, I'm just gonna double into it. Right, like, it's just not the best idea. But I do know that this is also a threat, right? And I need to get rid of it. So instead of doubling down into this, I decided to use Dazzling Gleam to basically deal damage to both of these things. And also, since this is weak for that, like, it can't Terra anymore to potentially, you know, evade damage. So, like, I know, like, if I do a Dazzling Gleam, it's gonna deal a lot. Like, it's probably not gonna kill, especially since it has a Focus Sash. Like, it's gonna survive, even if this killed. But looks like in this case it didn't. So I decided to also double down a Drain Punch into this to absolutely make sure that it dies. The other reason why I did that is because even though this thing might Icicle Crash or I don't know, like lash out, I know that my Flutter Mane's bulky enough to survive that hit, and this is exactly what happens. It takes a lot, but it's dead, and then I just kill that, and this is protected. So basically everything went according to plan. Exactly what I thought was gonna happen. And I do think that was probably my best play, because if I double down with some other move into this slot, like maybe he protects the other way or something, I don't know, like I just thought that's the natural progression, that he's just gonna try to protect here, and then maybe try to bring out Cresselia, like he did once that Champao was dead. Then he could set up his own trick room, you know, do all that. So, okay, next turn. Now, this can't protect anymore. So, and I have the speed advantage. So what am I gonna do? Oh, wow. I'm gonna Shadow Ball into that. I'm gonna Wild Charge into it. I know I'll outspeed both of these things based off last game, so I know there's literally nothing he can do to stop this. Except for switching out Ursaluna, but that kind of seems weird. Like, you know, it's set up and then he switch it out to his own Iron Hands. But if you wanted to keep his Ursaluna alive, I mean, I think that's really all he could have done, because, again, his Cresselia doesn't have Ally Switch. If he had Ally Switch, this could have gone so differently. But, yeah, double down into it, the Ursaluna can't do anything, and he sets up Trick Room, which makes sense, because his last Pokemon's an Iron Hands. And you know, now he gets speed priority. So next, I have a feeling that he's gonna attack my Flutter Mane. My Flutter Mane's kind of a liability now, because it's the fastest thing, so and the Trick Room is the slowest. So I decided to stall it out by doing a Protect. And I just Drain Punch into the Iron Hands. The Cresselia doesn't really scare me at all, so I don't think it's worth me attacking it at all at the moment. And he just kind of Drain Punches me back. I mean, like Ice Beams, you know. He just does damaging moves, nothing crazy. So he Drain Punches me, I Drain Punch back, and he just Ice Beams, right? Like, that's the best move. Do as much damage as possible to Iron Hands through that Iron Hands, and then just quick Ice Beam, get rid of Flutter Mane. You know, it's not a problem here. Cool. Not much I can do there. So, enter Ursaluna. Now what do? Now, this is really stupid. I meant to click Terra Ghost here, but I think something in my control didn't allow me to. So I ended up not Terraing. So just do a Hyper Voice to try to get both things, you know, try to hit them, get some damage, and get the boost of the Throat Spray. And I think he maybe thought I was gonna Protect if he goes into the Iron Hands. Right, I Drain Punch back, and then he Ice Beams. But then, boom, Disaster. Disaster kind of strikes here, like, he gets a freeze off. And this is kind of a big deal. Like, at this point, I think the second I killed his Ursaluna, I think it was over. Like, there's literally nothing you could have done. And here he gets a freeze. So it's like, oh, it's not over. Great, let's keep going. So, this says it thawed. In the real game, it did not thaw. That's why I clicked Earth Power into the Cresselia, because then you had Levitate. So it wouldn't do anything. So I was just, you know, showing you that nothing happened. Like the Cresselia, no, sorry, not Cresselia, the Ursaluna just frozen. And he obviously doubles out into it. He just wants to get rid of that thing. Boom, it's gone. He doesn't want to risk it thawing out and then just killing both of his mons. So, in my opinion, that was probably best play. But now, I have Ogerpon. Like, there's nothing he can do. It outspeeds everything. His biggest threat is the Iron Hands. So, like, I just hit both of his things, because I know this outspeeds his Iron Hands. My Ogerpon outspeeds his Cresselia, so I'm just gonna kill his Cresselia so it doesn't get any more stupid Ice Beams, so it doesn't get any more freezes, and then I just hit its own Iron Hands, and it's over. So those are the two games. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe. I plan on going to more regionals and making more Pokemon content. If you like any other questions, please leave them down below in the comments. And I'd like to thank MoxieBoosted for the great games, and I'm looking forward to playing him again in some other tournament. That's it. Bye!